So we are trying something here that we've talked about doing for a few years now. Uh, we're going to do this podcast at least weekly. Some weeks, depending on what's going on in our lives, maybe you'll get a bonus episode. But this is a working name right now. I don't love the name. Chat with Cat and Pat. So if people are listening and they've got a better idea for a name based on what you hear, we are all ears at this point. But if we delay this thing any longer, we're going to get far too old and not have the energy, and we just won't do this. We've been delaying and delaying and delaying. But here we are. My name is Patrick Gilroy, joined by my fiance, Katrina Pateri. And this is going to be kind of unique, Katrina, because we sit around and we'll be talking at dinner or hanging out with friends, and you'll look at me sometimes and say, this is why we need to do a podcast. Something will be happening in that moment, and something triggers in your brain, and you're like, this is exactly why we need to do a podcast. But unlike all the other podcasts that are out there, we're not going to do something Celtics specific. We're not going to do, a sports specific thing. This is going to be more about, I think, lifestyle, what happens day in and day out between a couple of 40 somethings that have been through it. So if you're into legitimate drama that happens day in and day out in other people's lives and you want to feel better about your own life, I feel like this is a good podcast for people to potentially listen to.
Yeah, if you're looking for another couple to relate to post-divorce, blended family style, that is us.
Yeah, that is definitely us. So quick introduction. I am Patrick Gilroy. Been on and off the radio for 20 some odd years. Recently walked away from my latest and last radio gig. It was just too much on the family, and I miss it, which is a motivating factor for doing this. But truth be told, as I got older, I also got kind of sick of just talking about the Celtics or talking about the NBA. There's more exciting things that are happening in the real world that matter more. Like the days of me losing sleep because the Celtics lost a game, at least a regular season game, I'm not going to lose any sleep. Playoff game, NBA Finals, there'll be some lost sleep. But in general, we are a blended family. I am going to be 44 years old in a couple of weeks. Love media, been involved in it forever. And I'm excited to see what this thing can sort of turn into over the coming weeks and months. But why don't you introduce yourself? Because unlike me, the people have never heard from you. This is your first foray into the public medium here.
Well, for me, if you've ever shopped in any retail establishment over the last 25 years in greater New England and ever heard anyone introduce themselves as Katrina, just like the hurricane, then I was probably your customer service person. So I spent over 20 years in the customer service industry, now in education, looking to debut my real estate career. And it's all about people, all about connections, all about talking, all about being relatable. And through my career, heard several different fun little stories, or you just can't believe this.
Yep.
As the next thing that has led it to be like, why not?
Yeah.
Why not? No problem talking in front of huge amounts of people and doing training and mentoring and selling and getting yelled at on manager on duty calls. So why not?
Why not? If you're not afraid to do it, you might as well use the voice that you have and get into it. So our background, I've essentially was married for 14 years, got divorced 4.5 years ago, got a couple of kids of my own, nearly 17-year-old daughter, 13-year-old son. They're a handful. They're a couple of handfuls, and we'll get into all of that. And then Katrina comes to the table with her own sort of backstory.
Yeah, 2 divorces.
Not one, but 2.
Not one, but 2. Total combined, not even as long as you were married.
It's very, very true.
Right. I have a son who's in college. And then we didn't even introduce our parents. You have a mom who...
Yeah, I mean, our parents, that's a whole episode unto itself, isn't it?
Some help. Yeah. My dad lives down the road.
Yeah, I mean, the parents truly do become the children. And, people say that and then it happens and it's like, well, what are you going to do? So together, just to keep track here, together it's 3 divorces combined, 3 children combined. We are both breadwinners to a certain extent, especially when you bring into the picture the exes. So our salaries living together under this roof are responsible for one, two, just count them, not including the parents,
Mm-hmm.
3 households require us to continue to earn the way that we earn. Like if one of us has to take a step back in our career, it doesn't just affect the house that we live in, the house that we pay for, the house that we own. It dramatically affects 2 other households as well. It's like a lot of pressure.
Ton of pressure, which is why, like, why not do a podcast we don't get paid for, but at least have passion in?
Yeah, that's it. It's you know what? It's cheaper than therapy, and I've heard other podcasters use that expression before, and I think that to a certain extent there's some truth to that because it at least allows you to get stuff out there. So over the coming weeks and months, you'll hear about the exes, about the kids, about the complications, and about the parents. My mom is a handful. She is her own worst enemy, and she has done some things through her life that have put her in this position. And while I do have a sister, she has checked out of the equation. So it falls on me. And thank God I've got Katrina because she helps. But mom also doesn't live close. We're in southern New Hampshire. She's on the North Shore in Massachusetts. And every time she needs something, it's an hour in the car to get there, an hour in the car to get back. And if you spend an hour or 2 with her, you can very quickly lose a weekend. You can lose a day. It's again, it's a lot of pressure, and it's something that we deal with. Now, the idea for today's show was to sort of set the table and give the listeners an idea of what's to come. So before we even think about wrapping this thing, I think a good way to give the listeners an idea is, okay, it's what is it, 4:30ish, 4:45? It's snowing out. It's a Sunday evening. Per our parenting plan, we get Connor, the 13-year-old son, back tomorrow. Now, he's supposed to come back after school. It gets interesting when you've got other people in the equation because the lack of communication sometimes is shocking, and their inability to sort of, I guess, plan for the future or plan for tomorrow is shocking, and it affects other people. So we sit here tonight. We'll wrap the podcast.
As the 2 full-time workers,
That's true.
A snow day tomorrow.
So if there's a snow day tomorrow, I still have to work. You still have to work. The ex-wife does not work. You'd think she might raise her hand and say, "Hey, I can keep him for the day. Come get him after work." That won't happen. But that's the conundrum that we're in now because it is snowing out. We are supposed to get 4, 5, 6 inches. Who knows? So now we have to sort of sit and wait, not just sit and wait to see if school is called. Will they have a snow day? Will they have a remote school day? And if delayed opening, and any one of those things affects the time in which Connor comes back home and the manner in which he gets here. The last time there was no school, it was a Monday. It was Martin Luther King Day.
A holiday for the entire years he's been to school.
Yeah, and mom brought him to school. And just on days where it's a scheduled day off during the week for school, the parenting plan says he gets dropped off back here at 9 a.m. 7:25, the doors are ringing, and he's here. Why is he here? With his backpack on? Because mom took him to school on Martin Luther King Day. And when they saw that the lights were off and no one was home, then they realized that, oh, well, let's just bring him to dad's. So tomorrow, same deal. Is he going to school? If he's going to school, that's fine. It means that everything should be status quo. But if there is no school, how does that get handled? How does he get here? If it's remote school, you would think that he'd stay at home at his mom's until school was over because remote school starts at 7:30, which is an hour and a half before he's supposed to come here.
Still needed by a parent.
Absolutely.
Lunch needs to get delivered. Like there's still motions
that you have to go through. So this is a small little sliver, like a little insight into the world. And you are a planner. You like to know what's happening ahead of time. The adjustment I mean, falling in love with me was your own mistake. You did it.
Mhm.
You're in it. You're screwed now because you get all this stuff that comes with it, right? But one of the things I learned about you very early on was that you are a planner, and it drives you crazy when you can't create a plan and then sort of execute that plan. How the hell do you even begin to deal with this? Because this is one example of one day involving one child. Multiply that by 3 and then by 2 because you've got your own stuff going on with your ex-husband. So, like, how do you manage that without going insane?
It's called Josh Wine.
That's your first plug right there. So if anybody from Josh is listening, you can
It's
mail
my
the checks
favorite.
to 1 Woodland Road. And
Oh, we're gonna give our address.
oh,
away.
why not?
Oh, yeah,
Why not? I didn't
We're
give the.
registered.
It's fine. It's fine. We're in the book. Or maybe there's no money involved. Maybe it's a little trade. They send cases of wine in
Mhm.
exchange for you to talk about them.
Yeah.
Would that work for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, see that? Send the wine to 1 Woodland Road.
Mhm.
So my name is Patrick Gilroy. Her name is Katrina Pateri. Is there anything else that you wanted to sort of bring to the table during episode 1 here? Or have you gotten it all out of your system? What do you want to do?
Well, like, how about the story of how we first met? Because that's certainly unique.
I mean, sure. You want to tell the world that we met on Match.com?
Match.com. I was given a gift card for Christmas.
I mean, there's no visual with the podcast yet. Maybe someday we'll introduce that. But Katrina's beautiful, and she knows it. She's always been beautiful. You would look at her and say, "Why are you on Match?" But when you understand her woes when it comes to some of the men that used to be in her life, she needed a break from dating. So get hit on every day, but it didn't matter. Like, you weren't interested in dating, and I love that your coworkers sort of forced your hand.
I was very comfortable being single, owning my house, going home to my dog, spending Saturdays cooking dinner and a movie at home alone.
Like,
I was okay with it. It was a very comfortable lifestyle.
So long story short, I am I was going to say newly divorced at the time. I was separated at the time.
Which I did not know.
I put it
on
in
the first date.
in black and white. I put it in my message to you. Somehow that escaped you, and you are the last person that would have ever had a second date with somebody that was still technically married. But you did, and it worked. But you didn't realize it. That's fine. But how many messages in the first 24 hours that you were on Match did you get?
82 messages the first 10 minutes.
82 messages. So, for people that say, I'll never win the lottery, I feel like I did. 82 messages. And how many did you respond to?
2.
And what made us different?
It was more than just like, hi, how are you? Nice smile. You're pretty. It was actual like paragraphs of like something written out.
Oh, I put the effort in. I saw her Match.com picture. She was at Fenway Park with a friend rocking a Red Sox cap. And for anybody that knows me, you know that I love girls that rock baseball caps, because to me, if you can roll out of bed in the morning, throw on a baseball cap and be pretty and be adorable and be sexy, that speaks volumes. Anybody can cake themselves with makeup and put on fancy clothes and try real hard. You were at Fenway, like you weren't trying at all. Mm-hmm. And the picture was, it spoke to me. So I put the effort in. Did you ever go on a date with the other guy?
He never messaged back.
Okay. All right. See that? I win again. But long story short, we go back and forth for like a day and a half, 2 days of messaging on there.
A couple days through, I figured out what your career was pretty quickly with the wordiness of your messages.
You knew I was a sales guy. Yeah, I was busy selling myself. 4 years later, it looks like it worked. But our first date, we decided we're going to go to this restaurant bar down the street called Old School, and it snowed out. So it's
not
snowing.
Just snow, but like significant snow, like good 8 to 10 inches of snow.
And we were like mid-storm. So the storm hit early in the afternoon. We were both at work. So we were supposed to have dinner, I don't know, 6:30, 7 o'clock. We're going to meet there for the Celtics game and to have dinner. So I'm driving home from work and I text her.
Well, it wasn't necessarily dinner. It was drinks and apps.
Yeah.
And then if it felt comfortable, then we could do dinner.
Okay. But that's not the story. I mean, like, the story is I text her and I'm like, I'm trying to be a gentleman at this point. It's snowing heavily. It's like blizzard conditions. And I'm like, if you want to postpone this because of the weather, just let me know. And she fires back, like, I'm going to get the words wrong, but she fires back almost immediately. Like, if you want to cancel, don't blame it on the weather. Just tell me you want to cancel. Like, it was shocking. So I had to backtrack. I'm just trying to be a gentleman here. I'm just, and she's come to find out she's a car girl and she had been in a car club. Her car at the time was more than capable of getting through the snow.
With brand new snow tires.
But I didn't know these things. I was just a newly single man dating for the first time in a long time. And I thought I'd be a gentleman. But we have our date. The Celtics wind up going to overtime. And at one point, and it's going well. So we're 2.5 hours in. We watched the entire game, and I can tell she's into it. So this is a big check mark. She doesn't just say that she's into it. Like, clearly she likes the Celtics, which is speaking to me all like incredibly. And then they hit a 3 to force overtime, and she's got jeans on that. Did you have the ones with the rip in the
No,
thigh?
I didn't wear a rip.
Okay, but she's got jeans on. She looks great, and I grab her, like, I hit her thigh, grab her thigh. And you are not somebody that allows people to touch you.
To me, this was a good sign. I didn't immediately want to bitch slap you.
Like, I made it through the night okay. So at that point, she didn't hit me, and I felt like this is a good first sign here. I really sealed the deal, though. At the end of the date, I walked her to her car, and then what did I do?
You cleared the snow off.
I cleared the snow off her car, which led to a second date, led to a third date, and 4 years later, we live together, and we're going to get married in less than a year, which is kind of crazy, but that's the plan.
That's the plan.
So as we start to exit the show, when I introed the show, I said, I'm Patrick Gilroy. That's Katrina Pateri. After we get married, what's your name going to be?
Katrina Pateri. On social media, you can call me Katrina Gilroy.
And that's okay, because at this stage, if we don't get this one right, we are both so screwed. Like, financially, we're screwed if we screw this up. Emotionally, we're screwed if we screw this up. So basically, despite the fact that your parents probably told you growing up, don't put all your eggs in one basket, all of my eggs are in your basket. That sounds so weird, but it's true.
Well, I'm a woman. I guess I have eggs.
You do have eggs. So speaking of eggs, are we going to have more babies?
No.
No more babies. Why no more babies?
No.
Because,
okay, mine's in college. Your two are a handful and fully grown. There's no way I'm going back to getting up at night, not having changing diapers, doing any of that. But we love to travel. Like, our whole life has been a schedule for other people.
Yep.
Like, there is a light at the end of the tunnel.
There is.
That there might just be a schedule that it's like,
There
I feel like going out to eat tonight.
There is. And when there's no babies, you can do that. So we made that decision early on. I joke with her about the fact that there's no babies, but it's fine. We don't need to have babies. Eventually there'll be grandbabies, and that's all the babies.
Or a puppy.
Or a puppy, that's all that we need. That's it. So I'm Patrick Gilroy. She is Katrina Pateri. As of right now, it's Chat with Kat and Pat, but who knows what that's going to turn into. Episode 1 is in the books. At some point this week, it'll get published along with the publishing. We'll announce when episode 2 will come out. We've both got a long week of work ahead. And for all intents and purposes, it's good because there's plenty of content for the show that comes out of our jobs. And I can't wait to introduce certain characters into the program, like my 78-year-old CEO and his 50-year-old son, and the things that we go through. There'll be stories shared, and some of the things will be unbelievable, and some of them, who knows? But we both have unique jobs, and they're very different from one another. And one of my favorite things about our relationship is our ability to sort of bitch and complain at the end of a long day, because you get it, and I get it, and I know that you get it, and it makes it a little bit easier to tolerate some of the things that we have to tolerate.
Well, and sometimes we just play a fun game with whose day had more unbelievable options.
That's a fun game. We should try it live on the air sometime. So this is episode 1 in the books. We'll talk to you guys again at some point later this week. If you enjoyed what you heard, tune in again. Tell your friends. I promise you, some of the stuff that we share will be mildly shocking, but we hope to entertain and avoid therapy, because the $40 copays for both of us, it's $80 once a. If we both went to therapy once a week, $40 copay times 2, so it'd be $360 a month that we are saving just by doing this podcast. No
That's
therapy,
true.
no therapy. All right, thanks for listening. We'll talk to you guys again real soon. Bye bye.